Before we get to the substance of the program, we want to say a few words about our dad. So we're here to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Father Joe's being a priest, and while that's great that he was able to hold down the same job for 25 years, tonight is about a little bit more than that too. He's a great priest, and also a great husband and a dad. And we want to say that he's always been there for our family when we needed him, with advice and encouragement. And I think my mom and he did a very great job of raising us, so we want to thank him for that.
I wonder how much money he has.
So at this point, my mom is going to say a few words. The mother of the man himself, the husband of the man himself, wife of the man himself.
Good job. All right.
They did confuse my mother-in-law and I before his wife and his mother. So it's okay. It's all okay. He likes the gray. That's all that matters. Yes, it's very California. Thank you again. You're going to hear it too many times tonight, but thank you all for being here. It means the world to us. I just wanted to do a kind of a fun thing for a moment. In this room are some wonderful people, and unfortunately you don't know each other, but we know you. We have the blessing of knowing all of you, and we'd love for you to know each other. And I hope that during this little bit of social time you had, you could meet one another. But just to see who's here, if you were baptized by Father Joe, stand up. You were baptized by Father Joe. We are very, very proud of our young people here at the church. Thank you. And that just reminded me, we want to get after, as soon as this is over, if you are my or Father Joe's godchild, if you would come up, we'd like to have a picture with you before the evening's over. We have several of them here tonight that don't usually attend St. George, so we'd love to have a picture with you. If you were married by Father Joe, please stand up. We have the first couple, Father Joe's first couple, Mary Jo and Joe Taz. And many others. Thank you. If you went to St. Vladimir Seminary with Father Joe, please stand up. And Bishop Basil was one of our professors. But you went to St. Vladimir's with him? Yeah. Well, we didn't have to stand up, but Bishop Basil did also. Bishop Basil taught Father Joe the Byzantine chant that he so beautifully does today. If you were on the octet with Father Joe, please stand up. Oh, is there no Chris? Father Joe got his voice from Chris Hallway right there. He didn't sing before that, and the twice a day singing on the octet trained him to have the beautiful voice that he, thank God, still has. And we were also engaged on the octet, so that was a good year. If you grew up with Father Joe, probably St. George, Detroit, or Grosse Pointe, or East Detroit, if you grew up in church, or a school, or family with Father Joe, please stand up.
Yes, get up.
You know where Bobby Share is? Wait, Master Bob couldn't make it.
Bobby family, wonderful. Wonderful. They went to school, Father Joe's gifts of the liturgics in the church that I am told by a lot of people how well he does that particular part of the church. I think that's a blessing to have served with him. If you've served on the St. George, since this has been his only parish, St. George Parish Council with Father Joe, please stand up. Some of you forgot, I think. John Solomon on Father Joe's first parish council when we came to Flint. 24 years ago. If you were on pilgrimage to 2010 with Father Joe and myself, please stand up. The Steiners, stay back there. Pam, Deacon John, Deacon Michael, Joanna, Hazel, we'd like a pilgrimage picture, please. After we're all done, put it on our Facebook page. Great.
Facebook.
Yes.
Don't buy the stock.
If you ever taught Father Joe, if you ever taught him or were taught by him, please stand up. That's a lot of people. All of our Bible studies, all of our church schools. Bob Corey, who stood up back there, was, stand up one more time, Bob. I'm sorry. You're going to say this before. Bob Corey was Father Joe's Sunday school teacher at St. George in Detroit. So I saw Bob Corey tonight and I said, it's all your fault. But he says he taught him all he could and then he had to send him off to seminary. And just one general category, if you've ever attended church with Father Joe in Detroit, Bay Ridge, New York or New Jersey, where he had his parish assignment, and here at Flint, St. George. If you've ever attended church with Father Joe, please stand. It should be everybody in this room, and we love you dearly for it. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks. Thanks, Mother. I just want to say a couple words before I start crying. One of the things that, when I thought about, being a host tonight and getting to say a few words, one of the first things that I thought of was, well, first of all, I have a really bad memory, so I couldn't remember any of the really funny stories that I should remember. But one of the things that I was thinking about is, all of us have stories here about my dad. And some of the funniest ones are probably from his mom, Layla, or his sister, Vicky, brother, Tom.
His babysitter.
His babysitter. Let's keep this PG. My mom's mom, Louise. But one of the things that I was thinking about is that, I probably wouldn't hear any stories tonight in talking to any of you or, from some of the speakers that we're going to have this evening. I didn't anticipate hearing any stories that really surprised me. That wasn't a joke, but anything that surprised me. I was going to hear things that were funny, of course, but I didn't anticipate hearing anything, oh, that doesn't sound, like the guy that I know. And I think that that's something that I admire most about my dad, is that he's not afraid to be himself. And when I was younger, I really didn't appreciate that much. You couldn't go to Fuddruckers without him meeting the waitress and asking about her life. My friends couldn't come over without getting the 3rd degree, all that kind of stuff. But I think that's a really admirable quality. Of course, you need to, cater how you behave sometime based on your company and based on the situation, but it's important to still be yourself. And that's something that I've learned from him and I admire. So now let's hear some of those stories. Our first speaker tonight is going to be Father Paul Giannakis. He's here with his wife, Michelle. He is the pastor of St. Mary Magdalene's in Fenton. He was also one of the first people my mom and dad met in the fall of 1980 when they started attending St. Vlad's. My brother and I went over and over how to word this best, so I'll try and do it succinctly. Father Paul's oldest son, Nicholas, is my dad's godson. His youngest son, Gregory, is my mom's godson. And Father Paul is the godfather of Joanna. So here's Father Paul.
I'll begin tonight by saying that I promised Father Joe that this wouldn't be a roast. That I wouldn't say anything about his driving record. Which pretty much eliminates everything that I hope to say. Right, Nick? Even so, I want to share with you some of my thoughts briefly about Father Joseph and his Curio Leslie that are worthy of mention. For as we say in the Holy Liturgy, it is meet and right, most especially when it comes to giving thanks. First, I want to say that it has been blessing from God to have you, Father Joseph, and you, Leslie, as our dear friends in Kumbadi for over 30 years. Most clergy families sacrifice their normal daily relationships with their extended families by serving parishes in places that are far and away from where they are born and from where their families live, as is the case for my wife and I. And it is this reason that Michelle and I and all of our children have been so fortunate to have your love and support over all of these years. You have been there through it all for us, through the thick and thin, by having suffered when we suffered, wept when we wept, rejoiced when we rejoiced, and by having been given us so much more than we deserve, and so much more than we have ever given. So, Father Joe and Leslie Ann, for this, Michelle and I are truly thankful. Secondly, I am thankful to God for all of the gifts, Father Joseph, that you have brought to the holy priesthood in the Orthodox Church. As Orthodox priests, we know that the office of the holy priesthood is a single office that originates in the person of our Lord Jesus Christ, who is himself the only true high priest. And as such, the priesthood is not ours to claim as though it belongs to us by merit, as many others might do in other civil vocations, doctors, lawyers, teachers, counselors, and all the rest. Instead, the very most that we can do as priests, even in the face of our own brokenness and sinfulness as persons, is to offer the very best of what we have to Christ in this unique ministry for his glory and not our own. And you, Father Joseph, have done this in many wonderful ways. In many wonderful ways. First of all, by your faithfulness and loyalty to St. George as your one and only parish. By the many long hours that you devote to the church during any given week. By the fact that, as John said, we didn't meet before this, there is nothing disingenuous or duplicitous about your personality. And most of all, by your meticulous attention to the good order of the services of the church. But for me, what stands out especially, and I'm sure that it does for all of you, Father Joe, is your cheerfulness, that you bring quite literally to the table of the Lord. For all of us here tonight, we know that the unique emblem of Father Joe's priesthood is the joy of Christ that is given to those who have taken up the cross and have followed him in his way. And I believe it's a very sad thing that there are some clergy, some priests, who somehow have lost this gift of cheerfulness, this gift of joy, which is the hallmark of Orthodox spirituality. I love the story about Groucho Marx as he was dying in a Los Angeles hospital. He was on an elevator going down to receive chemo treatment, and the elevator stopped, and onto that elevator came a young Roman Catholic, maybe an Orthodox priest. And when he saw Groucho Marx there, he said, "Groucho, Groucho, I just want to thank you for all the joy that you brought into my life." And Groucho, being Groucho, said right straight away, "And Father, I want to thank you for all the joy that you've taken out of it." So Father Joseph, more than anything else, we are grateful to God for the ever-present cheerfulness that you bring to the Holy Priesthood. Finally, I would like to honor Curia Leslie Ann, without whom there would be no celebration this evening. Puma Leslie, this is your day. No more less than it is for Father Joe. When I see you, I'm reminded about the beautiful account in Genesis, which tells us that the creation of Eve was not God's afterthought, as some have erroneously thought or supposed. Eve was the last of God's creation because as the mother of all the living, she was the most beautiful. She was the crown of God's creation. When I see Curia Leslie Ann, I think of that Eve and all of the life and all of the beauty that she has brought to our church because of her faithfulness to the little things. As the Lord says, "Well done, good and faithful servants. You have been faithful over little, I will set you over much." So Father Joseph and Curia, may God continue to work in the vineyard of Christ's Holy Church. May God grant you many, many years. Mabruk Chronia Pola. And on behalf of my family and my parish of St. Mary Magdalene, we decided that we should do something more than just a half-page ad in the book, and we have given you just a little gift to enjoy with your wife on this.
Thank you, Father Paul. Our next speaker unfortunately, was not able to be with us this evening. When my dad was first assigned to St. George, she was the church secretary, the choir director, and the parish council secretary. When my dad was assigned to the church, she was also the first parishioner that he spoke to. She helped set the foundation for his ministry as a new pastor at St. George. And now with a special video message, if you can turn face this way. This is Sylvia Sophia.
We do this live for YouTube, eh? Come on down.
That's Facebook.
It is?
So if there's one thing that we're really good at here at St. George, it's technical difficulties
Don't forget about the audio issue.
and the audio issues. So thank you for bearing with us. Joanna is going to try and work some magic. I don't really know what she's going to do, but she's going to try and figure it out. But we're going to keep rolling in the meantime. Rick, you ready to go? Okay, perfect. Our next speaker is going to be Rick Shaheen. When Dad first came to St. George, he was surprised and horrified to learn that less than a year less than a year after he got here, our parish was going to be hosting the Parish Life Conference. But he was blessed to have Rick as the conference's chairman. Probably since Rick has been old enough to run, he's been on and off the parish council here at St. George, and he's currently the parish council chairman now. He works as a teacher up in Midland. He also drives over an hour every Sunday to be the teacher for high school kids here at St. George. So he taught my sister for 4 years, and me for 4 years, Nick for 4 years. So Rick's been a big part of our life. That's all I got.
Father Joe told me I had 90 seconds, so I'll talk very quickly. It gets better than that, because I knew Father Joe when we were teens in Teen Soil, and we had a lot in common. We were both from Michigan, which was good. We could always hold up our hand and tell people where we were from. He was from down here. I was up there. I was a knuckle. We were both short, dark, and appropriately muscled. Okay. He, however, was the rambunctious one. I was the one who would go to bed early so I could make sure I made church in the morning. He would lead the dedication lines late into the evening, or something like that. But as we grew up, obviously many things happened, and as we got to this, there were some things that he would explain later anyway. Like, in 1987, and Layla, sorry, because I remember this vividly, when Father Joe was ordained in Dearborn, Metropolitan Philip said, you know, why are you crying, woman? Okay? What? Because you were right in front. I was in the cheap seats. Okay, so I got a good view of it. And it was very impressive because at that time, we had no idea. We just knew that this was cool, that a guy I grew up with was a priest. That is really cool. You know, it's a generational thing that people from my generation, to have somebody that we grew up with become a priest, you know, growing up, you had God, priest, teachers, and your parents who supported all of that, you know, in your estimation. And so to have somebody who's a peer become a priest was really cool. Little did I know that other stuff was going to happen, and then he'd be my father too. So that was kind of awkward, is you have to ask him stuff in confession. Like, is this okay? How about this? And he didn't want you to cut corners. So he was pretty good about that. I'm going to go cut to the chase because this being Memorial Day weekend, it's an interesting phenomenon because in memory, what we've run into is a couple of different things. First, I have the honor of Father Joe, and I don't think he's ever going to break this record, I have the most northern wedding that he'll ever perform. In the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, in Bishop Anthony's backyard. In Iron Mountain, Michigan. Bishop Anthony's from Ironwood. For those of you who haven't been up there, especially in the summertime, this is where God lives in the summer. And I'm not kidding. If you haven't been up there, hit an Orthodox church in the summertime in the UP, it's gorgeous. I'm not sure what God's doing in the winter, but unless he skis, he's not hanging out up there. Way out. However, in '87, when he became a priest, we didn't know what was going to happen, but then soon thereafter, this parish suffered a large loss. We lost our father. Okay, Father Bill, God rest his soul, died suddenly, and we didn't know. We were lost, we were adrift. And we didn't know what was going to happen next. It's funny when parishioners don't know stuff, because I was a young guy and somebody came to me and said, well, you're going to be the next priest? And I'm thinking, you need to go to Sunday school. Okay, that's not how it works. I mean, we were just cut adrift. We didn't know what was going to happen. But little did we know that over the next short period of time, Father Joe would be assigned, and he alluded to it when you said, he found out about the conference. I called him to welcome him to Flint. You know, the whole flowery welcome to Flint. He said, yeah, cut the crap. What's this about the conference? That was our first real phone conversation as my parish priest. Cut the crap. Okay. Which is what I'll do now. Over the intervening 25 years, from that parish that was adrift, having lost a father, we have since gained a father, a brother, a son. We have gained everything. We've gained a new parish mother, and we have gained an extended family as Father Joe and Leslie have brought their family together and woven it together in this wounded parish of Flint, only to bring us all together and weaving us together as one large extended family, together with all of you here tonight. So on this beautiful occasion, we thank Father Joe for that healing that he has brought us, for the family that he has brought together, and God willing, we'll be here in 25 more years to celebrate this again. But, you know I couldn't do it in 90 seconds anyway. I would like to call Deacon Michael up on behalf of the parish council. He has something he needs to say for us. And by the way, for the church school, and regardless of what the church school kids heard last week of how to greet the hierarchs, you're not supposed to walk up to them and go, "Holy homies."
Thank you, Rick, so much. Your Grace Bishop Anthony, Your Grace Bishop Basil, clergy, and all friends and family. I won't take very long here. Everything that Rick said and everyone else said, yes. What I want to do is short and kind of to the point and net, and it is this. We hesitated to consult with the 25th anniversary committee. We thought that they would be rather busy, so we decided on our own at certain risks to see if people might want to contribute to some funds to make him a little bit better dressed. Liturgically. And we were hopeful, and our hopes have been achieved to a very nice degree, I think. And I can't really give the full gift at this point because contributions still are coming in. So I would just like to read this. Father Joseph, we present you a small gift from our humble hands on this your 25th anniversary in the priesthood. We offer it in thanksgiving to God for you and as part of our sharing the joy of this day with you and Clea Leslie. Our driving focus was to help with vestments. However, the generosity born from love of many parishioners here at St. George and friends far and near, we hope that this gift might help a little in other areas of your ministry as well. And perhaps even in some of those ministries of Clea Leslie. Some contributions, as I indicated, are still en route. And so we'd like to ask you to please accept this gift of approximately $3,800 in thanksgiving.
Thank you, Rick and Deacon Mike. I think we are ready for the Sylvia Sophia one, the introduction you already heard. So here we go.
And then Father, working with you and the choir. The choir has been my life, and I truly miss it, and I hope they're doing well. But that was always a very important part of my life, you know. I was choir director there for, well, probably 50 years, I don't know. But you, I was there longer than you. I hope you make it as long as I made it, Father. I want to wish you a happy 25th anniversary. I'm really proud of both of you. And I hope you're here for another 25 years, because our church can certainly use you. Thank you, and God bless you both.
Right. Sylvia lives out in California. I had a fun time corresponding with her and her kids to get that message to you guys. Also, I'd like to thank Al Gore for inventing the internet. Our next speaker is going to be Roger Isaac. Sorry about that before, Roger. Roger is a former chairman of our parish council, and my dad was adamant when talking to me that in his 24 years that he didn't work with anyone for the betterment of our parish more than he did with Roger. So Roger Isaac.
Thank you. I don't need a microphone. I do? My wife said I need one. All right. Father Joe asked me to speak about 3.5 months ago. I wasn't quite sure that I understood correctly, because he told me, as Rick indicated, I thought it was, and Father Paul, I thought it was supposed to be a roast. So I spent like 3 months. I've got all these stories written, and I've got everything, and now I've got a bishop on each side, so I have to keep everything. So I typed it. It took me 3.5 hours to type it. So then I wrote all over it. But Rick alluded a little bit to this. I want you to go back to one of the old westerns. And you know the old westerns when the sheriff gets gunned down in town, and the deputy decides he doesn't want to be part of the town and he leaves? So the marshal appoints the new guy in town with all the energy, and he sends him to St. George in Flint, Michigan. They used to go through priests like people go through buttermilk. But he was eager, he was ambitious, he was dedicated. And I wrote all these things down, hang on a minute. He's dedicated, he's compassionate, he's faithful, he's committed, he has leadership, strength, he's an educator, he's stoic, he's inspirational, he's spiritual, he's steadfast, and he's relentless. And last of all, he's obstinate. Anybody that knows Father Joe knows that when the line is put in the sand, he's got a foot on each side and you can't get either thing in. Father and I was on the parish council for 15 years. I think I was 8 or 9 years as parish council president or chairman. Father Joe brought a lot of things to St. George. What he brought to St. George, I think the most, is he brought stability. And what he brought was, he brought rules. They're not his rules. They're the rules of the church. And people fought Father Joe. He knows that, me included. We fought all these changes. We fought the fact that, guess what? You need to take communion, but you need to take confession before you take communion. And it's every 2 months or so, you need to come to church. You just don't show up every 2 months and say, here I am, I want to take communion. He also said, guess what? The rules were people that were Catholic and from outside other churches and Protestant churches that came and take communion at St. George. Can't do it here. Find another church. He laid down rules that bucked what we all knew. I was born into St. George 64 years ago. A lot of things happened that Father Joe won't let happen. I was the altar captain back in 64, and I remember opening up the church. I remember a lot of things. Joe Gattaz is shaking his head because he remembers those days. a lot of things that Father Joe, we all should have known what we were up against, because we had a young lady who was getting married in the church, and she wanted to have Here Comes the Bride play. Sounds simple enough, why not? We all go to churches where they play Here Comes the Bride. So we had a parish council meeting, it was brought up, vote was 9-0. We voted that they could do it. Father Joe looked, very stoically looked across to everyone on the table. He said, I understand your vote, but it's not going to happen in my church. Then I believe a few weeks or months later, the organ was dismantled and taken down because we weren't going to have organ music that Sylvia used to play. Those are the kind of things that he brought to the church. But he was so steadfast and so dedicated to the church, to orthodoxy, to teach us, that he stayed true to his beliefs. He didn't give to the pressures. It didn't matter if it was 9-0. It didn't matter if it was 90-0. The rules were the rules, and you were going to follow. Some people left. But how we found out, my wife and I found out about St. George, and I'll be very brief, it was a Saturday, I think, and Father Joe had been here maybe a month, and she said, why don't we go to church to see who the new priest is? Now you have to understand, my wife was not Orthodox. She came to see him, and then she became Orthodox. She knows more about the church than I'll ever know. She followed and studied with Father Joe, and we thank him for that. And that's the thing that he is. We've met his family. I mean, I know that John still is upset with me. You can tell by his comments, because when he was, I think, 12, I stuck him in a garbage container because he was being unruly during the coffee hour, so I picked him up and put him inside one of those containers back there. Leslie's eyes were about that big, and you know the old the mother hen? She was on the verge. So I had to take him out. But look, it turned out okay. He's got a great voice out of it. But we were fortunate, as I said, 25 years, 24 years we've had stability in our church. We've watched the family go from young children to Joanna being born here to being a young lady. Father and Leslie, I know they went on their pilgrimage, they went and they visited with my family, my uncle overseas. I have nothing to say but to thank you both. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Uncle Roger. Next, we have another message from a friend from out of town, long distance friend. This is from Laguna Beach, California. This gentleman met my dad back when they were in Teen Soyo together. And although he is a little older, my dad always looked up to him and remains close to him today. Please direct your attention back over to the projector for a special video message from Jimmy Gosen. I'm not as good of friends with him as my dad is.
Get the mic on. Give a hand for Joanna.
Come on, Joanna.
We didn't let her speak, so she's sabotaging.
I see the film school's really paying off.
Okay, should we come back? Okay.
All righty then. Our next speaker is currently the superintendent of the Graham Blank Community Schools, where we all grew up. A lot of people think a priest only has responsibilities within his parish or to his parishioners. But they forget that, you know, when a priest goes home, or he goes to the store, or he goes to school for parent-teacher conferences, he's still an Orthodox priest. Dr. Norman Abdullah met my dad while they were both doing work in the community, and they clicked and became friends. Also, Nick told me this story last night, that when Dr. Abdullah was Mr. Abdullah as the principal of Grand Blanc Middle School, Nick won Student of the Month one month and got to have lunch with Mr. Abdullah, so that was exciting, I suppose. So here's the big kahuna himself, Dr. Norman Abdullah.
I sat there hoping that the kids never took any technology classes. Don't say a word if you did. Well, good evening, everyone. It's both a pleasure and an honor for me to be here this evening to commemorate and celebrate the 25th anniversary of the ordination to the holy priesthood of the very Reverend Joseph Abou. As a member of the Maronite community in Flint, I can attest that the ties between Our Lady of Lebanon and St. George's have always been strong. In the days before Father Joe, our communities joined together for a number of activities and spiritual ceremonies, and we are all happy that that cooperation and collaboration have continued under Father Joe's leadership. We have laughed together and sadly mourned together as one community of faith. Therefore, it's not surprising that I met Father Joe almost as soon as he arrived in Flint. In addition, because his home is in Grand Blanc, and as you've already heard, his children went through the Grand Blanc schools, and his wife is a permanent substitute in our district, we have interacted often over the years through his involvement in the district's strategic plan, concerts, school board meetings, and through his service as a member of Grand Blanc's accountability committee called the Core Group. Father Joe has remained a strong supporter of the strategic plan and stayed active within a variety of district initiatives. In addition, he and Leslie were active and involved parents throughout their children's educational journeys. Many in the Grand Blanc Community Schools would describe Father Joe as committed, involved, supported, and conscientious. I would just like to add one more adjective to describe Father Joe. Annoying. Now, I sat down here thinking that I would take a page out of Leslie's book and say, stand up if you've ever been annoyed by Father Joe. But we haven't got time for that. I mean, there's just too many clergy here this evening for me to lie about it. I will provide a few examples, but first you have to understand that my office sits geographically between St. George's and his home. Therefore, he passes my office every day, and he knows my car. Needless to say, he occasionally drops in unannounced. I generally know when he's there because he usually stands in the foyer of our central office and yells, "Honey, I'm home!" Loud enough for everyone in the office to hear. Then he throws open an outer office door, walks directly in my office area, grabs a handful of candy from the secretary's dish, walks into my office and helps himself to a chair. Am I busy? Who cares? These visits last anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour. Our discussions during those visits are generally fairly intelligent, lucid, and occasionally insightful. Sometimes we talk about religion and the meaning of life. But there's always a chance for that little dig. Example, I've been superintendent of schools since September. Father Joe stopped in one day. "How's the new job going?" he asked. "Pretty well," I said. "Is it stressful?" he asked me. Well, how nice, I thought. I'm really concerned about it. "Yes, Father, there's a lot more stress in this job." "Yeah, I figured that," he said, "because you're really packing on the weight." Another time he came into the office quieter than usual. I was working on my computer with my back to the door. He positioned himself directly behind me and yelled, "Hey!" I swear I literally jumped a foot off my chair while he laughed uncontrollably. Annoying. When I was the middle school principal and he attended his kids' 8th grade graduation ceremonies, he would come up to me afterwards. He always wanted to do that kiss on both cheeks because he knew that I didn't like to do that when I was working. Anyway, he would inevitably say something like, "Nice ceremony, beautiful, very well done." But I learned to wait for it because I knew he wasn't finished. "Yeah, but where'd you get that last speaker from?" He was a walking sedative. There it was, that little dig at the end of the conference. Another time, I was coming back from a meeting just as Father Joe was passing by. So he followed me into the parking lot. As I got out of my car, I saw this white car coming straight for my car. It wasn't stopping. As I stood with my mouth gapped open, Father Joe proceeded to run into the back of my car. I thought it was an accident, and I saw him laughing hysterically. But who does that? So now you know. Father Joe is my own personal purgatory. He is my punishment for past sins. But putting that aside, we all know that Father Joe has always been a faithful servant of the parishioners of St. George. The success of the church, spiritually and financially, are his passions. Once a man knocked on the church office door holding a sealed box. You might have heard this story. When Father Joe opened the door, the man set the box down and said, "Father, I was wondering if you could do a funeral service for my dog. I never got married or had children, and this dog was my family. Can you do a funeral service, Father?" Father Joe said, "Look, I love dogs myself, and I understand your sadness, but there's no way that I can do a funeral service for your dog." "Well, thanks anyway, Father," the man said. As he bent to pick up the box, he said, "Come on, Rover, I guess I'll have to take you and my $10,000 to the church down the street." Hold on, hold on. You didn't say the dog was Orthodox. Those of you who know my wife Rachel have noticed that she's not here this evening. Actually, she's attending the wedding reception of the son of some very close friends. We were invited to 2 special occasions this evening, and therefore we had to split our time. But as I said at the outset, I consider it an honor to be with all of you this evening. Despite Father Joe's charming impishness, I have a deep affection and respect for him. He is truly a priest of God and takes his duties, his vows, and his faith very seriously. In that, he is not impish, he is not glib, and he does not joke. When my daughter was married, he was there. On those two traumatic occasions when first my father-in-law passed away and later my father passed away, he was there. As my mother-in-law battled cancer, he spoke comfort to my wife and prayed for her recovery. He is as much a part of our family's lives as any of the Maronite priests. And the differences between the two religions have become for us totally inconsequential when prayers for healing or comfort are required. He was always there for us, and so tonight I'm here for him. And let me speak just a moment about Father Joe's family. As I mentioned earlier, his wife Leslie is an employee of the Grand Blanc schools. In addition, you know her to be kind, supportive, and sweet. His 3 children, graduates of Grand Blanc all, have made their parents proud, and they stand upright before them. In that, Father Joe is also a very lucky man. They and the parishioners of St. George are Father Joe's strength, and his faith is his salvation. And so on this very special evening, on this very happy and blessed occasion, I wish you, the very Reverend Joseph Abu, a very happy and healthy 25th anniversary, and wish you and the parishioners of St. George the very best in the years ahead. Thank you.
I think we found our host for the 50th anniversary. If you guys could direct your attention back to the screen, hopefully we got things rolling now. A special video message from Jimmy Dawson.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Dawson, coming to you from Northern Beach, California. Can you believe that? You might have heard of me, maybe from the comedy tour Arab is Gone Wild, some of the greatest ever comedians of our time. But I'm here today to talk about a special person. I'm sorry I'm not in Flint, Michigan. And one of the reasons I'm not in Flint is because I've been to Flint before. Is the Red Roof Inn still there? Still there? I'm not sure. But I'm here to talk about somebody who is close and dear to my heart. Someone who is probably one of the most spiritual men that I know. So, somebody who's probably one of the best, most positive speakers of anybody I've ever heard. And, well, enough about Joel Osteen. To talk about Father Joe Abu. Yes, Father Joe, or as we affectionately call him, Abuna Abu. I think that's one of the reasons why he became a priest, so he could be called Abuna Abu. Not many people can say that. But I've known Father Joe for at least 35 years. We were in Soyo together. I'm from Akron, Ohio. I don't know if you noticed that or not. But I used to come to Detroit to actually just to go bowling with the Syrian League. They called it the Syrian League back then because, you know, it was still popular to be Syrian. That's how bad it was in Akron. I'd have to go to Detroit to bowl, okay? And Akron was the bowling capital of the world, by the way. So we'd hang out together, and in fact, I have a picture of Father Joe. This is way back when in the 70s. I don't know if you can see this or not. Can you zoom in? Now, on the left is Mark Namey, and there's Father Joe, and myself, and a gentleman by the name of Kevin Shaheen, who I think is out of jail now. But, my gosh, this was 35 years and at least 85 pounds ago. So I cherish this photograph. And I cherish Father Joe because I never knew he had the appetite for theology as he did. He went to the seminary. I never knew he had that appetite. I knew he had an appetite for kusa, and hummus, and baba ganoush, and pepperoni pizza double cheese, I think it was. But never for theology. And he did it. He became a priest, and he's beloved, and the people of Flint, Michigan, honestly, you're so lucky to have such a spiritual person who can teach the Bible, who can teach you about orthodoxy. But yet again, enough about Leslie. And here she is, many years ago, with her cousin, John L. Sad. And And God bless her for marrying Father Joe. They met while they were both studying theology, and it was really a match made in heaven. So Father Joe, the people there, you know, I wish he was in California, I really do, because he has such an infectious laugh. He's always had such an infectious laugh. Well, now it's pretty much just a smoker's cough, but I wish that many, many more happy years, another 25 at least, because I am a member of St. Ignatius, and you know, we help pay for the pension. So I really hope you're able to get part of that before it's all over. When I became a member of St. Ignatius, and Syedna Philip put the ribbon over my head and said, "Well, it's about time you joined," and I said, "It's about time I had $500. So I wish you a happy 25th. And many, many more to come. I love you dearly. God bless you, Father Joe, and have a great time tonight. Thanks for letting me be.
Thank you, Jimmy. Now, we're really blessed to have the two bishops that are here with us for the weekend. Syedna Basil is not going to say any words tonight. He will be giving a sermon tomorrow, I believe. But I'd like to introduce him for those of you who don't know. My dad first met Bishop Basil in 1976 when he was Billy Essie. He had graduated from St. Vlad's Seminary and he came to St. George, Detroit, as the first youth director in the Archdiocese. My dad was chrismated into the Orthodox Church with Billy as his godfather. Billy once helped convince my dad to return home when he ran away. Otherwise, he would still be a traveling vacuum salesman or something. But thanks to his prayers, Dad was like the prodigal son and came home. When Dad went to St. Vlad's in the fall of 1980, Billy was the Byzantine chant instructor at St. Vlad's. And more recently, Bishop Basil led a pilgrimage of 45 people, including my parents and my sister Joanna, to the Holy Land in 2010. So thank you very much for traveling so far. Bishop Basil is also the Bishop of Wichita and Middle America, right? And so he's traveled a long way to be with us this weekend, and we really appreciate his presence. And next we're going to be hearing from His Grace Bishop Anthony. Back when my dad was at seminary, again in 1980, Bishop Anthony was called Ricky Michaels. And he was a graduate of U of M, and he was from the UP town of Ironwood, as Rick mentioned before, and he was a classmate of my mom and dad's at the seminary. He was a member of Kerygma, which was the original Orthodox boy band. And after serving the Archdiocese as a priest for a number of years, he was nominated to become a bishop at the Antiochian Archdiocesan Convention in 2011, and was consecrated as the bishop of the Diocese of Toledo in the Midwest in December 2011 by Patriarch Ignatius at the Balamon Seminary in Lebanon. So, Father, His Grace of Bishop Anthony would like to say a few words now.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for being here. I see so many of my classmates at seminary. I didn't know it's been over 30 years. You look better than I do. So I think it's just great to be here at Father's 25th anniversary to the priesthood. This is my 8th year. You know, a bishop is an elder priest, so we still maintain the high priesthood of the Lord Jesus Christ. I wanted to also appreciate